We shall continue our study of the Metalliferous Mines Regulation 1961 with Regulation 124, which is precautions against dust. These precautions against dust, the statutory provisions are very important from examination point of view as well as from our personal health point of view. Now, as far as examination is concerned, we need to understand two things. First one is 8 hours time weighted average concentration of airborne respirable dust. This terminology is there under the regulation 124, and second is percentage of free silica, because these two will determine the maximum permissible limit. Now we know that the statutory limits, as far as statutory limits are concerned, there has been no change in the statutory limit. It continues to be the same 5 milligram per cubic meter of air sampled in case of magnesium, and in other cases figure of 15 divided by the percentage of free silica, etc. But we need to be very careful, and we need to very carefully read the question. They may ask you what are the recommended maximum permissible concentration of airborne respirable dust. So if they ask you recommended permissible concentration of airborne respirable dust, then we need to immediately remember the 12th Safety Conference recommendation, wherein they have mentioned about the maximum permissible limit to be 1 milligram per cubic meter of air sampled, and of course the sampling instrument continues to be the same, gravimetric dust sampler and all that. And as regards the percentage of free silica is concerned, it is the up to 5% of free silica, it will be 1 milligram per cubic meter of air sampled, and more than 5%, it will be figure of 5 divided by the percentage of free silica, and that will determine the maximum permissible concentration of airborne respirable dust. Now there have been several recommendations, wide circular by the DGMS. As far as our examination is concerned, these recent circulars, recent guidelines related to the testing, sampling, measurement of respirable dust, as far as that is concerned, so we need to very thoroughly study the DGMS circulars. We will find that we have several guidelines issued recently by the DGMS by way of circulars. From examination point of view, we must study thoroughly all the recommendations which are covered under the various circulars. Now this is somewhat a compilation of all those recommendations issued by DGMS by different circulars. Now the first one is the airborne respirable dust sampling of air to be done by DGMS approved dust sampler only. These are the recommendations which need to be followed, because we know what is the maximum permissible concentration of airborne respirable dust that is permitted. But now as far as measurement is concerned, we have got elaborate instructions via different circulars, and the first instruction is that we must conduct the airborne respirable dust survey with approved type of DGMS approved sampling instrument. Second thing is the weighing balance, because you know that the concentration of airborne respirable dust is calculated on the basis of the differential weighment of the filter paper before the instrument is set in the dusty atmosphere, and after the 8 hours concentration, and after the machine is removed and the filter is removed and all that. So the differential weight of the filter paper will give you the concentration of airborne respirable dust that we collect in this sample, and that will determine the dustiness of the atmosphere in the mines. So for that matter, what the recommendation is, these weighing balance on which we are going to weigh the weight of the filter paper, or for that matter of the dust concentration, so that weighing balance used shall be capable of weighing 1/100th of a milligram. The accuracy should be 1/100th of a milligram. The purpose behind this is, say if you get 0.50, 3.50 is there, so 0.5 and above will be considered as the next higher digit, and that will be taken as 4 milligram per cubic meter, and etc. Second instruction is calibration of the sampling instrument shall not be on a date later than 1 year. Means at least every year we must calibrate the airborne dust sampling instrument. That is second thing. And one more thing is, the owner agent manager has to provide adequate number of sampling instruments. Means wherever they want to conduct the airborne respirable dust survey, there should not be any shortage of the sampling instrument. Now, as far as approved type of sampling instrument is concerned, we know that the figure which you are seeing on your screen, it is of the Sidekick. So this is the Sidekick model of the dust sampler, which is DGMS approved one. And the other specification which you are finding here is its weight is very little weight, it's there 0.6 kg, 600 ग्राम वजन होता है. एंड इसमें एक चीज आप देखेंगे, स्टैंडर्ड्स एटेक्स अप्रूव्ड एंड CE मार्क, this is written there. So then operating range is 5 to 3000 milliliter per minute. Means the air that it absorbs almost it is on the similar lines of the human breathing rate. So that is because this instrument has to give a representation of the airborne concentration of the dust that may reach the breathing zone of the persons working in that atmosphere. So from that point of view, there is a operating range which is 5 to 3000 milliliter per minute, and it has a rechargeable nickel and nickel metal hydride battery, NIMH battery it is called, and ATEX stands for ATEX. Actually it is a French name and the full form is in French, but the meaning is that devices intended for use in explosive atmosphere. Then CE mark, that also you will find there. So CE mark means it meets the EU means European Union Safety, Health and Environmental Protection requirements. This is just for your information. We don't know what type of question may come, but just to have a knowledge, have an idea about the DGMS approved dust sampling instrument which we are using over Indian mines. Then another thing is very, very important. Whenever we are conducting this airborne respirable dust survey, the respirable dust content and the quartz content shall be determined within 14 days of collection. Wherever we find these type of numbers, these type of figures, so we can expect a question in our MCQs. So the respirable dust content and the quartz content needs to be determined within 14 days of collection of dust sample at an approved lab, means DGMS approved lab. Then this determination of the quartz content has to be done at least once for every ore body, hang wall and foot wall, and whenever there is substantial change in the ore body, so that whatever the concentration of airborne respirable dust is there in the atmosphere, that should be representative of the dust concentration to which the workers may be exposed. Then airborne dust survey shall be conducted by suitably trained persons. Now, as regards training is concerned, the airborne dust sampling, airborne dust survey sampling is to be done by trained persons. Now, these persons are to be trained. It is the responsibility of the owner agent manager to ensure that adequate number of trained persons are there. Now, what this training should cover? Now, this training should cover the detailed procedure for conducting airborne dust survey and covering the location, at the location where the dust survey is to be done, the duration of sampling, which the duration in the sense it could be for a peak period also you can have a short term sampling, or you can have a whole shift sampling also for the sake of gathering information about the airborne dust concentration, and the type of sampling that will be done, and the instrument that will be used, and the accessories that will be used for survey. So the persons are to be given training related to all these things: handling of the instrument, which is the instrument, at which location we are going to do the collect the samples, and etc. Then one more thing is to be covered under the training is details about checking and operating the instrument. This is very, very important, because unless the instrument is correctly operated, we are not going to get the representative sample or representative results. Then method of determination of airborne dust concentration, including method of weighing the filter papers and collection of dust, etc. All these things are to be given thoroughly covered during the training. Then permissible limits also. Those limits are to be also very thoroughly explained to the persons who are involved in the airborne dust sampling, and other statutory provisions also regarding airborne dust survey. Those are also to be imparted, covered during the training, and various dust control measures that we have adopted in our mines. So those dust control measures are also the people who are engaged in the dust sampling, they need to be conversant with those, that arrangement also. Then sampling procedure. This sampling procedure, this has also been elaborately covered under the various instructions and guidelines issued by various DGMS circulars. They say all the workplaces where airborne dust is generated, they shall be sampled. Means we should not, the owner agent manager shall not miss even a single place where airborne respirable dust survey is there. And the dust exposure profile, means we have to do the sampling to verify the concentration of airborne dust that is generated in any particular working place. That is one thing. And second thing is the dust exposure profile for different categories of work persons working in that area. Then the manager, it is the responsibility of the manager to identify the areas where airborne dust is generated. So it will be prerogative of the manager, and he will decide which are the areas in our mine where airborne respirable dust is generated, and those areas are to be sampled periodically. Now static monitoring is done to verify the concentration of airborne dust that is being generated, and personal monitoring is done to verify the dust exposure profile, means the workers are exposed to what concentration of dust and what quantity of dust during the shift, that is to be monitored by way of personal sampling. Now this dust profile of selected workers, we are not going to attach the dust sampler to each and every worker. We shall be selecting a few workers who shall be in the group, who shall be a sort of representative of the group, and we shall be in a position to verify the concentration of dust to which all the entire group of workers will be exposed to. So, and one more terminology you will find here, it is portal to portal monitoring. Portal to portal monitoring means what? Portal to portal monitoring means from the moment the worker enters the premises, work premises, until he leaves the work premises. This is known as portal to portal, means throughout the shift, when his work starts, whether he starts from his place where he is punching his card and all that. So throughout the portal to portal means right from the moment he starts the work and the moment he stops his work. This is known as portal to portal monitoring. Then for the open cast and surface operation, how we are supposed to conduct the fixed point or static sampling, the guidelines read like this. The instrument, this is very, very important. The instrument to be placed on the return side of the point of dust generation naturally, because unless you place the instrument on the return side, you are not going to get the correct concentration that is there to which the workers are exposed. So the instrument has to be placed on the return side of the point of dust generation. And one more recommendation is that you should have more than one fixed point samplers, and they shall be installed along the circumference of concentric circles of 5 meter and 10 meter radius around the point of equipment generating the dust. The whole purpose behind this is that we should not miss the exact concentration of airborne respirable dust that to which our workers are getting exposed. So they have recommended that it should not be only single point fixed sampler, but you should have more number of fixed samplers, and they shall be installed in concentric circles of 5 meter to 10 meter radius from the point of generation. Then the samplers to be installed along the direction of the wind. We know that the direction of wind and direction of air current is likely to change during the shift also. Now, since these samples which we collect, they will be giving representation of the concentration over there, so we need to be very, very careful that we should have the correct idea. So from that point of view, they say that the sampler should be installed along the direction of the wind or of the air current. And if at all a situation is there that the direction of the air current has changed or direction of wind has changed, so in that case the sampler shall again relocate the instrument so that we get the correct concentration that is being generated by our equipment. That is the sole purpose behind this. Then the categories now as regard the personal dust sampling is concerned, this is very, very important because this determines the dust exposure profile to which our work persons are exposed. So the categories of persons whose dust exposure is to be determined, for that we have a guidance, and that guidance is, now you see the areas that are going to generate airborne dust. So those are to be identified and fixed by the manager. But as regard the categories are concerned, so some of the categories that are to be covered under the personal dust monitoring, so DGMS has given guidance, and as you know, the category starts with drillers and dressers because they are the persons who are most exposed to the dust, and then shovel, excavator, front end loader, dragline operator, they are also to be personally monitored, and then dumper and tipper operators and their helpers also, then dozer and grader operators and helpers, then ore handling plant crews. We know that wherever the crushing and screening operation is taking place, so in that case the airborne concentration of dust is always more. So these OHP crews, crusher operators and helpers, then wagon loaders, then any other machine operator whom the manager feels to be exposed to airborne dust, so he is also to be covered under the personal dust sampling. And another category that is to be covered in the personal dust sampling is the foreman and other competent persons, means mining mate or other supervisors who are working in the dusty atmosphere. They are also to be monitored by way of personal dust sampling. What shall be the frequency of sampling? You see, as far as frequency is concerned, in the statute we find that it is given as 6 months. But please remember, the statutory duration of sampling may be 6 months, that we will cover subsequently under the MMR regulation 124. But as far as the recommendation of DGMS are concerned, so at least once every month we have to do the sampling. Airborne respirable dust sampling is to be done, the frequency has to be at least once every month. Then another criteria for doing the sampling or for the sake of frequency of the sampling is immediately upon commissioning of any new plant, equipment or machinery, or upon the introduction of any new work practice, or upon any alteration therein that is likely to bring about any substantial change in the levels of airborne respirable dust. So we need to do sampling once again in addition to the monthly sampling. Then sampling by personal dust sampler shall also be carried out along with fixed point sampling, means both we have to do the static monitoring as well as the personal sampling also. Then one more thing, recommendation of DGMS is regarding the rejection of samples. As you know, whatever dust sampling we are doing, our criteria is to ensure that the dust samples or the dust results that we get, they will be representative of the actual concentration of airborne respirable dust that is in our mines and to which our workers are exposed. Now, there is a recommendation for rejection of the samples also. The samples shall be rejected when they are to be rejected if the instrument was not working throughout the entire shift of 8 hours. So naturally, the sampling instrument which you installed there, if it had some developed some fault or for some or the other reason it was not operated throughout the shift, then that samples are to be rejected. Or if duration of operation of that particular operation for which we are going to monitor the airborne respirable dust, or take samples therefrom. So if that operation on that day of sampling is less than 80% of the normal duration. Now what is normal duration? For that sake, average operation of previous 1 month is taken. So average operation in hours and all other things, it will be the average operation of previous 1 month. So if the operation of, if that particular operation or operation of that machinery or duration of the operation of that machinery is less than 80% on the day of sampling, that sample shall be rejected. And then in case of portal to portal sampling, if the person does not do his normal work in that shift, then also that sample shall be rejected, because we need to have a representative sample. Then another recommendation or instructions regarding the recording of results is, these are very, very important. All results of measurement of airborne respirable dust and all other relevant particulars shall be recorded within 14 days. These are to be recorded, and a plan is to be maintained on a suitable scale. They are not mentioned about any scale, but on a suitable scale you can maintain a plan which shall clearly show all the places where sampling was done, and date of last sampling is also to be indicated on the plan. Now, as far as the results of the airborne respirable dust samples is concerned, so the results are to be maintained in a prescribed format. You know that the format has already been circulated by DGMS, and therein only we are supposed to record all the results of our sampling. And record of respirable dust content and the quartz content shall also be maintained in the prescribed format, and also it shall be kept in a bound page book also. Now details of the weighing balance used shall also be recorded with the date of sampling. Now you are finding on your screen, this is the static sampling result sheet, result of respirable air mod dust with. This is regarding the static sampler. Name of the ore body is given, name of the mine, name of district, section, balance details, and type, then make, which make is there, then accuracy, what is the percentage of accuracy, serial number, name of the ore body, etc. And herein you will find there are, including the remark, there are 14 columns. First one is serial number, second is date, third is location of sampling, fourth is serial number of filter paper, fifth is initial weight of filter in milligram, final weight of filter paper in milligram, and difference in weight milligram, 6 minus 5 means column number 6 minus column number 5. Then sampling time in minutes, duration in minutes, flow rate of the instrument liters per minute, and here we get the volume of air in cubic meter. Okay, so since it is in cubic meters, so 8 into 9 divided by 1000, we know that it is 1000 liters per cubic meter. Then dust concentration in milligram per cubic meter is 7 divided by 10, and 8 hours time weighted average milligram per cubic meter, so that is column number 11 multiplied by column number 8. So this will give you and divided by 480, this will give you, because it is 8 hours multiplied by 60 minutes, so it is 480, so you will get 8 hours time weighted average. And work duration is to be given in minutes, and remarks, if any, that are to be given. The second sheet is regarding the personal sampler. All the other details are already there, name of the mine, name of the ore body, and balance details, etc. Then it is serial number, column number 2 is date, third is category of persons attached with sampler, and fourth is serial number of filter paper, initial weight, final weight, difference in weight, sampling time, flow rate of the instrument, volume of air, dust concentration, 8 hours time weighted average, work duration, and remark. So these are the two sheets or prescribed format wherein we need to record all the results of our dust sampling. Now regarding preservation of the filter paper. Now these filter papers which we had used for sampling of the concentration of airborne respirable dust, they are to be preserved for a period of 3 years. Please remember, all these things can become a part of our MCQs, and we should expect many questions as far as dust is concerned, because time and again DGMS has been issuing circulars related to dust, and dust is one of the very important topics from the health point of view of persons employed in mines. And International Labour Organization has also been time and again reducing the maximum permissible concentration of airborne dust and all that, depending on the various research that is being conducted and the things that are coming up from health point of view, means the adverse effect that are noticed on the persons employed in mines. So from that point of view, when we have conducted the sampling of the airborne respirable dust, a report is to be made. Now this report of the airborne dust survey shall give the following details. What shall be there? A brief introduction should be there, that these results of the airborne dust survey are pertaining to this mine, this section, or this month, etc. Then methodology of dust sampling, what is the methodology, which is the instrument you are using, and sampling strategy, what is the strategy for static sampling, what is the strategy for personal sampling. A brief note is to be included in that, and instrumentation, if you have any instrumentation related to that, so that is also to be covered. At many mines they are having a real-time instrument also, which gives instantly the concentration of airborne respirable dust. So if that sort of things are there, so those are also to be included in the report that is to be prepared. Now as far as the observations are concerned, the observations that are to be included in the report, there will be tables, and these tables will be showing the results of airborne dust survey for static as well as personal sampling. And the two things are to be mentioned specifically: maximum dust concentration and time weighted average for different locations and operations. This is also very important. And the conclusions, whatever conclusions the sampling in charge has taken, and if he has any recommendations, those are also to be included. Now let us study about the permissible limits related to asbestos dust fiber. We may be finding the word as 2 fibers per milliliter of air sampled in case of asbestos, but please remember there has been an amendment in the Metalliferous Mines Regulation, and as in the form of amendment this was issued in the year 2008. So in case of respirable asbestos fibers, the area shall not be treated as free from airborne respirable asbestos fibers if the concentration exceeds 1 fiber per milliliter of air sampled by the open membrane filter. This is important, and measured by a phase contrast optical microscope, naturally of a approved type. Now you see, we find little difficult terminology, but let us have a glance over it. Although the terms are very difficult to pronounce and all that, there is a explanation you will find in the regulation. For the purpose of this regulation, the term respirable asbestos fiber, because this can become a question in MCQ. So the term respirable asbestos fiber means any fibrous form of mineral silicates of chrysolite, actionolite, amosite, anthophyllite, crocidolite, tremolite, or any admixture thereof. So these are the various chemical names of the asbestos fiber, and these are the asbestos fibers which will be termed as respirable asbestos fiber, provided that with a length greater than 5 micrometers and a diameter of less than 3 micrometers. We know that micrometers or micron is 10 to the power minus 6. So length greater than 5 micrometers and a diameter of less than 3 micrometers and a length to diameter ratio greater than 3:1. So if this is the dimension of the asbestos fiber, then it will be considered to be respirable asbestos fiber, and the open membrane filter which we are using to find out the concentration, that open membrane filter will be trapping these respirable asbestos fibers only. Now on your screen you are seeing the phase contrast optical microscope, and those are the open membrane filters also which are used to determine the concentration, means 1 fiber per milliliter is the maximum permissible concentration. Now this duration of the dust sampling, as far as concerned, we have already covered that it must be done once in every month. Although statutorily, as per the statutory frequency is concerned, it is still written as 6 months only, and if any measurement at any workplace shows concentration in excess of 50% or 75%, so the measurements are to be carried out subsequently in 3 months or 1 month respectively. But now, as far as the recommendations by DGMS are concerned by way of circular, so we must remember that the frequency of sampling shall be 1 month. Then it is also covered, this 1 month frequency is the maximum frequency of sampling, but in addition to that, if any new plant has been commissioned or new machinery or new method has been adopted which could have significant impact on the generation of airborne respirable dust, then the sampling is to be done once again, means in addition to the monthly sampling it is to be done. And one more recommendation is that this type of sampling is to be done for ore body as well as overburden also, and whenever there is any change of strata, because you know every type of geological formation is going to emit different the silica in different percentage, and the dust concentration could be in different percentage. And one more recommendation is that when the measurement of airborne respirable dust shall also be taken when drill bits are changed. Whenever drill bits are changed, it is like to have adverse impact or a change on the concentration of airborne dust that is being generated. So the recommendation is that you should again conduct the sampling whenever you are changing the bits. Then the location, frequency, timing, duration and pattern of sampling shall be such, the manager has to decide that, and the location, frequency, timing etc. shall be in such a way that it shall be truly representative of the levels of dust exposure of work person. And the sampling shall include static monitoring. Why we do static monitoring? We do static monitoring to identify the sources of dust emission and levels of dust concentration in the working environment. And personal monitoring is done to identify the concentration of dust reaching through the air which reaches the breathing zone of the work person. And moreover, there is a recommendation that the sampling shall be duly supplemented by short term sampling during peak emission. We know that when the drilling operation is actually going on, see, the dust generated will be more, so we can have short term sampling for those peak emission period also to know the maximum concentration of airborne respirable dust in our mine or in that particular area. Then respirable dust content of this sample shall be determined as soon as practicable, and you know that the results are to be recorded within 14 days and in a bound page book. And one more thing that can become a question in MCQ is the entry in this book wherein the record of airborne dust sampling is maintained. It shall be countersigned and dated by the manager within 24 hours after such recording. So that is one of the condition. And you see, we can expect a question on these lines. When the dust monitoring results have established that the permissible limit of dust is being exceeded at any place, so what action is to be taken? They are saying, they may ask you, when the dust monitoring results have established that the permissible limit of dust concentration being exceeded at any place, so what is the action to be taken? So we know that the relevant operation or operations causing excessive dust shall cease. Then one more thing is that if the dust prevention and suppression device of any machinery or equipment fails to operate efficiently, the operation of the said machinery shall also cease, and it shall not be resumed unless the defect has been rectified. Now one more thing is that we know at times, in spite of taking all the precautions, we find that the airborne respirable dust concentration is more than the prescribed limit, say 50% of the permissible limit, and we are finding that it has not crossed. When it crosses the permissible limit, then naturally we are supposed to cease the operation. But at times the situation may come that there is a peak emission, although the concentration, 8 hours time weighted concentration of the airborne respirable dust is very much within the limits, but during the drilling operation or during particularly handling some dry material, etc., it could be that the concentration of airborne respirable dust is more for that peak period. So in that case, the need for dust respirator may arise. So the owner, agent or manager of every mine where need of dust respirator might arise, so the regulation says they shall ensure that no person goes into or works unless in that particular area unless he wears a suitable dust respirator, and the owner, agent, manager shall provide for sufficient number of approved type dust respirators, and these dust respirators are to be regularly cleaned, disinfected and maintained in efficient working order. And similarly, the persons who are required or expected to use those dust respirators, they shall be properly trained in the proper fitting and other things and the correct use of the respirator, etc., so that they derive the complete full benefit out of that. Now another thing is that to prevent the liberation and accumulation of dust and the propagation of airborne dust, the dust shall be suppressed as close as possible to a source of formation. So naturally we don't want to that any of the dust particles to escape in the atmosphere, and that shall be suppressed as close as possible to the source of formation. And during any operation of drilling or boring on surface, because this is the operation which generates maximum quantity of airborne respirable dust, so the production of dust in drilling shall be reduced by using bits which are sharp and of proper shape. That is important, by keeping suitable pressure on the bits and by keeping the hole clear of cuttings. The drill cuttings are to be regularly removed, and they are not allowed to accumulate over there, so that the concentration of airborne dust doesn't increase. Then as far as water is concerned, water is the best suppressant. So a jet of water shall be directed onto the cutting edge to weight the cuttings or other equally efficient device approved by the chief inspector, and this jet of water shall be kept in operation throughout the drilling or boring. That is very, very important. At times we may find that the drillers have hesitation in doing wet drilling, because this wet drilling could result in jamming of the rods, or maybe that the local condition is such that the progress of drilling is less by wet drilling. But now it is our duty as a supervisor, as a manager, as an assistant manager to ensure that the jet of water is continuously directed to the cutting edge of the drilling equipment, and when pneumatic drilling is done, the water shall be turned on before the compressed air of the drill. Then we find that the generation of airborne respirable dust is on the haul roads. So roadways on the surface where mobile mining machinery ply, they shall be regularly wetted. Either you can provide the water sprinklers, or you can provide the fixed sprinklers along the roadway also. But this regularity depends on the local conditions. You may be required to send the water sprinklers twice a shift, 3 times a shift, or you may be required to operate the fixed type sprinklers along the roadway at regular interval, but that is to be decided so that they are regularly wetted. And even that roadway dust can be effectively treated with some agent also to reduce dust being raised to the atmosphere. Some chemicals are there which can be mixed along with water, so that the formation of cakes is there and the generation of dust to the atmosphere is reduced. Then this is related to the underground mines, where the ventilation fan is exhausting the air from the underground. So the exhaust air on surface shall contain below 10% of the permissible limit before emission to the atmosphere, but this is related to underground mines. Then every device and every dust respirator, this can very much become a question for our MCQs. Every device and every dust respirator shall be inspected once at least in every 7 days and shall be thoroughly examined and tested at least once in every period of 6 months, and naturally the reports of the results are to be recorded and in a bound page register and all that. So this way we must remember this. Then the manager of every mine where airborne dust is generated shall formulate and implement a scheme which shall specify. What it shall specify? The location, frequency, timing, duration and pattern of sampling. Then the instruments and accessories to be used for sampling. We need to ensure that each and every manager formulates and implements a scheme which specifies the location, frequency, timing, duration and pattern of sampling, the instruments and accessories to be used for sampling, the lab at which or laboratory at which respirable dust content of samples and quartz content shall be determined, and the format in which the results of measurements of dust concentration and other particulars have to be recorded. Now the organization for dust monitoring is very important, and for the examination and maintenance of dust prevention and suppression measures and dust respirators is also very important. And the manager, it will be the duty of the manager, owner agent manager, to ensure that you have a specific organization for dust monitoring and for examination and maintenance of dust prevention and suppression measures. And one more thing is that we need to make all the persons employed in our mines very much aware, by making all persons concerned regarding the implementation of the dust control measures, and we should ensure that they are fully conversant with the responsibility or nature of work they are performing. So this is our responsibility as a manager, to ensure that all the persons are made aware about the adverse effect of the dust, the various measures that have been adopted at your mines, and for the cooperation of all the persons employed in the mine to ensure that the atmosphere in the mines is free from dust.